Hawks21 here, back with another Splinterlands video. So today was supposed to be me breaking down some of the new rewards cards, but something bigger happened, and that was the release of the first legendary summoner for Chaos Legion, which was Grandmaster Rathe, or Rathe, I don't know how to pronounce it, from the Life Splinter. So I guess I would, before I get into it, the caveat is obviously that until it's in the game, these stats here could change, but for now we're talking about 1 shield, void armor with amplify. There's been a lot of talk about this in the map chat. I think people tend to, in the Discord map chat I should say, I think people tend to be a little underwhelmed by this card. And I think that's fair for bronze and silver. And the main reason for that is because I'm excited for this at the higher levels because of the amplify. I think void armor is a fantastic ability. No one's doubting that. I think people are generally upset that 1 shield plus amplify on top of the void armor is a little meh. Especially at the lower levels where there's just less opportunities for amplify. So what we're going to do in this video is talk about Grandmaster Rathe. Sort of my thoughts on the mana cost. Then I'm going to go through cards that I think get a boost from Grandmaster Rathe, and maybe some potential cards that become less enticing now that more people are probably going to be using him as a summoner. Before we get into that, if you enjoy my content on this channel, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe. I'm getting closer to that 1,000 mark, which is my goal. Hoping to do that by midsummer. So any support would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's get into it. First thing we're going to look at, I'm actually going to get rid of this. First thing we're going to look at is the previous summoners, and we're going to talk about the 6 mana cost broadly. So there was a lot of questions about what the mana cost was going to be. I think a lot of people assumed we were going to see a 9 or 10 sort of super summoner set from the Chaos Legion, just based on the fact that in general we're getting higher mana cost cards and the higher mana games, right? Like they recently moved the outside of the 99 special rule set, they recently moved the cap from 50 to 60 to sort of accommodate some of the higher mana cards we're seeing. But we didn't get that. We got 6 mana. And generally speaking, across the release sets, right, like all the Chaos Legion summoners are 4. The Untamed summoners were 3. Basically, every set they release, except for Dice, the Dragon summoner was 4, and the other ones were 3. But for the most part, they're going to be the same mana across the release sets, right? Like even the Untamed airdrops were 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, all 7s. So I'm pretty confident saying most of them are going to be 6, right? Like maybe for Dragon again, previously they've shown that they're willing to go up 1 for Dragon. Maybe you see something similar, but we know now that we're not getting, a super summoner, right? Which I'm happy about, because there's been a lot of talk about sort of power creep. And if they keep releasing, better and better cards, the older cards from a competitive standpoint become a little obsolete, right? Like they can add as many bonuses and stuff to some of the old cards as they want to increase people buying them and trying to play with them. But if you can't win with them, then it doesn't matter, because you're not going to get those bonuses. You're not going to get those rewards that are required by winning. So we're not close to power creep becoming a problem. In my opinion, like we don't have remotely enough sets or decks released. But as you sort of expand out 3, 4, 5 years down the line, and all of a sudden we have tons and tons of cards that are available, power creep becomes a problem. So I'm glad we're not inching towards that, right? Because they release 10 mana cap summoners now. Is that the highest they're ever going to go? At some point, are we going to see 15 summoners, 15 mana cost summoners? So I'm happy they sort of moved down in the direction, if that makes sense, just from a competitive standpoint. But what that does mean is, because the other thing Splinterlands does well is generally the mana cost is, how am I going to word this? The mana cost properly represents how powerful that card is in a vacuum. So emphasis on in a vacuum, and I'm going to give a good example of this right now. The Demon Dragon, right, from Water is 8 mana, right? Actually, no, that's not that good of an example. Hold on. I'm going to have to click out of this. I am blanking on the name. The Desert Dragon, sorry, 7 mana. Then you get Queen Mycelia, who is 4 mana. I can't get them on the same screen, unfortunately. So, but Queen Mycelia is worth more than Desert Dragon, even though it's a lower mana. The lower mana comes into play because you can use Queen Mycelia in more matches, right? So like lower mana cost in Little League and stuff like that. And also it synergizes really well with other monsters, right? It has more abilities that make other monsters better, where the Desert Dragon is just focused on itself. But in a vacuum, on itself, if you could only play one card, like put the Desert Dragon up against Queen Mycelia, the Desert Dragon's going to beat Queen Mycelia. I don't know if there would be a case where in a standalone match, Queen Mycelia would win. I guess in reverse speed, if Queen Mycelia got really, really lucky and the Desert Dragon kept missing or something. But for the most part, like if you were to match these cards up 1-on-1, Desert Dragon's going to win. So like generally the higher mana cards are more carry cards by themselves. That's not to mean that lower mana cards can't be more useful or more valuable when, paired in the right settings with the right other cards. It's just, the higher mana, the better standalone in a vacuum the card is. I hope that makes sense, because my next point, I have to get back to what I was doing here prior, is that I can say pretty confidently that on average, the new Chaos Legion airdrop legendary summoners are going to be worse than the Untamed airdrop summoners because of the lower mana cost. That's not to say they'll all be worse than Lil Deep Swimmer, who, from a price standpoint is the lowest Untamed airdrop. And I would think most people would agree is probably the least effective of the 6. But I'm just saying on average. And what I'm very confident is at the high side, we're probably not going to see an airdrop summoner that competes with these two. I'm fairly confident. I could be wrong, but I would be happy to be wrong, because I'm, out of these top guys, I only have a Kitty, which to me is the most unfair card in the game. But even the Llama, I don't think we're going to see something better than for 6 mana. Maybe this is the one where I would question. I'd be a little more comfortable saying like one of the, the best 6 mana cost summoner will probably be better than these 3. But I'm very confident saying these 2 aren't being touched. And so what does that mean? If you were sort of waiting for the new summoners to come out to hopefully see a drop in these 2, or maybe even Scarred Llama, I don't think you're going to get it. Like, I don't think there's going to be a replacement level summoner for these 2. That's not to say that, I don't know what the synergy is to come out to combat Kitty, besides like the exact opposite. I guess you'd have to have like Affliction, double slow, something like that, maybe some shield or something. I don't know. But, maybe one of the summoners is like a direct sort of nerf on one of these guys. In which case maybe you see a drop in price. But from the standpoint of like, I guess I would call it power creep, I don't think there's going to be people in a vacuum sort of selling these to pick up the Chaos Legion airdrops because they're better cards. I don't think that's going to happen with the 6 mana cost. So these guys are probably safe, in my opinion, from a value standpoint. And if you want to pick one up, now might be the time. I don't know if you're going to see a drop. Again, it's just my thoughts. I obviously don't know. I would love if Jotun sort of tanked in price because I'm dying to get one. I just can't stomach the cost at the moment. But yeah, so 6 mana cost. What I think it means is these top guys are safe. I don't think they're going to get touched. Again, maybe here, you'll probably have 1 or 2 that are better than these 3, but I think most of them are going to be worse. In a vacuum, again, the synergies, you can, with a general Sloan, you can beat a Jotun if you play the right cards in the right order and stuff like that. I'm not saying that these cards aren't going to be able to beat these cards. They 100% will be able to beat these cards depending on the other cards you have. But just as a standalone, I'm not expecting them to be more valuable, or definitely not more valuable given the print rate, but more powerful than these top guys. All right, now let's talk about specific monsters. What I have up here is the life and neutral modern. I'm just going to focus on modern. That's sort of my focus of my channel. So that's what I'm going to talk about. To get it out of the way first, like any card with shield is now going to get void armor with Grandmaster Rathe, right? So that becomes a huge plus. I'm not going to stop at every single card that has shield. I'll point out some particular ones that I think are undervalued and now sort of could become more playable. But let's talk about some specific synergies. So I'm going to actually start with the Gargoyle Lion. Super cheap. I think this becomes a much more viable tank with void armor, specifically in silver and higher, right? Because you're going to have void plus void armor if you're expecting magic, and you're going to pick up some additional shield, right? If you're expecting magic, this is now just a card. The 6 mana is still just too high for this card for me. Like I'm still not excited about it, but it just becomes more usable now. If you're just starting this game and you're playing at silver, I think he becomes more viable, specifically as a neutral, right? So if you don't have a great tank you like for life, which, if you don't have Shield Bearer, the life tanks to me are some of my least favorite outside of Shield Bearer. This becomes viable if you're expecting magic. Big winner, Pelacor Conjurer. We've seen it shoot up in price. Well, shoot up, quote unquote. It was like $0.015 today. It's almost doubled, at least from the single. As we speak, it's getting bought up more and more. This card is insane with the new summoner, Grandmaster Rathe. So at bronze, it's whatever. The extra shield will help. It's obviously a very elusive card with the flying and the high speed. The extra shield just gives it more survivability. It's really good once you get the magic reflect. Because remember, we have amplify. So it's going to be really hard to hit, extra survivability, and we'll be sending back increased magic damage with the amplify. What gets here in gold, when you add the divine shield, think about this. So it's getting an added shield, right? It doesn't normally have shield. That shield is voided armor from the summoner. So it's going to soak up the first hit in general, right, before we get divine shield, which normally wouldn't happen. Now when we get divine shield, the first hit is going to be soaked up by the divine shield, and then the second hit is going to be soaked up by that armor. So you're buying in the gold with this card. You're going to get 2 hits that it normally wouldn't have before it starts getting into the health. And then again, if those are magic attacks, all of those are being sent back with the additional amplified damage. Then obviously as you improve, more health, and then once it gets phased, this just becomes like, to me, I'm going to play this card, and basically any low mana, that's a given that I'm using life, but almost mid mana too, right? Like I almost have to play this card in some context, even of like putting it at snipe in the second position. It's just going to be way too great of a card. So again, there's obviously tons of these and they're still printing them. So I'm not making any real price predictions at all. But to me, I would be scooping up Pelacor Conjurer. I'd want extra copies. I definitely want to make sure it's at the max level I plan on playing at, not just now, but also in the future. If you're a silver level player who wants to be playing in gold at some point, right now is when I would be getting my Pelacor Conjurer, up to level 7 or 8 to get ready for you to play in gold, even if that's months from now. At this price, it's such a strong synergy. All right. Sunkai Harvester is one of the ones where I think is undervalued and has a lot of shield and just becomes much more resilient now with the Void Armor. You know, nothing too crazy or special, but just with the floor and, you know, the 4 mana cost. You know, I think this card just got a little better. So I'd look out for this one. I think it, you know, is more useful. Chain Spinner now, you know, its main ability is the Void Armor. You know, if every monster in life's going to have that, this to me is just not an interesting card anymore. You know, obviously if you don't have the new summoner, but in the context of the new summoner, you know, I'm going to completely ignore Chain Spinner. Chaos Agent, everyone talking about this card, is a big winner. It's going to have shield at the, you know, right away. You're talking shield and Void Armor right at bronze. So like from top to bottom, Chaos Knight is my biggest winner. You know, at every single level, because it continues to pick up health and shield. It becomes more and more resilient. You know, at Diamond with the Inspire too, just gets even better. You know, at the end, you're talking about shield, Void Armor, the additional armor 12 that your opponent has to go through. So Chaos Knight goes from, to me, a card I never really would play because it would just get obliterated by magic, right? Like 4 health in bronze, unless we're talking about a no magic rule set. This card just gets obliterated. Now, very, very viable. This is one of the biggest increases of a card. Not surprising, people are talking about it. It's increased in price. Scavo Hireling, another one. I made sure I maxed out a couple cards as soon as I saw the stats. And I'll point those out. This was one of them. The Camouflage, Slow, Repair. Anything with Repair now, everyone's getting an armor on your life team. It's all going to be voided. Having this repair that can't be hit, and you know, the additional slow is obviously nice. This is now a must-have life card. The price has shot up from like 7 cents or something when I was buying it this morning, or 8 cents. It might have been 10 or something. I don't remember. I was buying so much stuff today. All the way up to 17. I don't know if these prices are going to cool off. They normally do a little bit, so maybe it's worth waiting. One of the ones I wanted to point out was Elven Defender. It's sort of like the Shield Bearer Light. You know, not even close to as good as Shield Bearer, and you can see that from the price, but you know, it has a lot of shield, has the shield ability in silver. So when you just add the void and the additional armor, it's just a much more viable card now. I don't love it, but from a tank perspective, you know, it's decently priced. So, you know, again, in life, some people complain about the options for a tank. This has now, to me, become more viable. Let's see. Oh, Sneaky Warrior of Peace. Again, not a direct synergy, but you're going to be playing a lot of defensive lineups now. And this is an extremely defensive card. High speed, high hit points, and then all defensive attributes. So, you know, right away it gets demoralized. So like, let's say you have the Chaos Knight with the shield. Demoralize is important, right? Because you're decreasing that attack damage even more into the Chaos Knight shield. Headwinds once you get to gold, and then silence at the top level. So at the top level, you're talking about demoralize, headwinds, and silence, and you're building a strong defensive team. So like, again, not a direct synergy specifically with the new summoner, but with the types of lineups you're going to play with this new summoner, I think Warrior of Peace is a very underrated card. Blinding Reflector, another big winner. Specifically in silver with the Magic Reflect. Again, anything with Magic Reflect or Return Fire, they just got way better in life or neutral. Yeah, and it, you know, it has even the lowest levels, right? It has a ton of shield. So now all this is going to be voided. Better when it gets the Magic Reflect for sure, but it becomes a more viable card at lower levels when you're expecting magic. Time Mage is another one. Just with the Rust. You know, if you're going to play life teams or if life's the only option, having the ability to now remove shield, given that it'll all be voided, is going to be an important ability. Pelacor Arbalist, not a direct one, but just giving it a voided shield. You know, the big problem with the Pelacor Arbalist, it's really like a high damage explosive card, but it dies quickly. It's not that fast. It does have the flying, but really low health. Giving it a shield is, you know, it's going to help it stay alive and deal more damage. Let's see. Oh, big one is Zenith Monk. This is more at the very high level. Again, survivability in this card is a survivability card. It's not a big damage dealer. But up at the highest level, when you have Void and Magic Reflect, again, Magic Reflect amplified, Void plus Void armor, getting the additional armor with the heal, this is going to be a really difficult card to kill with the new Summoner. Crystal Jaguar at silver with the Thorns. Also has a ton of shield as you get to the higher levels. But the main one here is the Thorns. So in silver, this now becomes a viable card with the Amplify from the new Summoner. Lone Boatman is a great one with Repair. Same reason as the Scavo Repair monster. Anything with Repair now, more valuable when everyone has a shield and Voided Shield. Oh yeah, the Silver Shield Sheriff gets Protect in gold. So something to look for if you're playing in gold. Before then, no real synergy, but Protect's going to be huge now that everything's voided. And in that light, this is the other card I picked up today. I actually tweeted about this one. I picked the only other one that was priced here, max copy. They're adding 2 armor. Cleanse helps, plus an additional tank heal at the highest level, which is where I'm going to be playing. I saw this price kick up. I had to pick this up, so I picked up a max copy. It was like $2.90 flat. Only one left at this price. So if you're sitting on, $339, I really like this card now. It's great synergy. Tower Griffin, another one. Anything with Protect, same thing. Just you can add shield and it's automatically voided. Onyx Sentinel, another good one. When it gets the Thorns and gold and then return fire and higher, both of these are going to be amplified. Trying to go a little quicker now. Let's see, nothing specific here. Legionnaire, you could argue, a little less useful. He was a tank that I used a lot with life because, again, up until today, but little spoiler alert, I didn't have Shield Bearer. So I used him a lot, but now, I can use the Chaos Knight with Void Armor, cost less. I mean, he has obviously other abilities that are really useful, so not useless, but he definitely loses some of its luster, at least how I used him. Hero of Beyond becomes a little more interesting. Shield ability with the Last Stand in close range. Specifically I'm interested at silver when it gets the Last Stand. It's less enticing without the boost from General Sloan, the archery, but it's harder to kill. So, I think this becomes slightly more useful for sure. Big one is Shield Bearer. I picked this up today. I just bit the bullet. As soon as it came out, I was like, I don't know if this is real or not. I didn't really even speculate. There was a copy at like $7.90. I picked up a max copy. I did it. Not a lot of cheapish ones left. I don't know how much this is going to run up. It's run up a ton. But I just need this card with the return fire that gets amplified. It's already so hard to get rid of. Then you add in the Void Armor. It's just going to be impossible to get rid of Shield Bearer. Unless you're specifically planning for it. Uriel has gotten a tick up. Everyone's talking about that. Just more from the context of anything with shield. Just gets better. Big winner thus far has been Adel Brightwing. Price is almost doubled. I missed out on this one. I'm going to hope that it cools off a little bit, or I get it in some of the more packs that I open. But, I only have a level 3 right now, which again, I get the repair, but, if I'm going to be playing it a lot, obviously I would prefer the swiftness and immunity as well. Is that it? No. So then Elmo Cambio, more gold and higher, return fire and magic reflect. Amplifying these is, it just makes a huge difference. The big thing for me is playing at the highest levels when you actually have these abilities that can be amplified. I don't have to waste a spot on most of the amplify monsters are really weak, besides Queen Mycelia, who does a bunch of other things. Most of them are super weak, so I don't want to play a super weak amplify monster now if I don't have to. Like, it's attached to my summoner. So that's one of them. I think at the highest levels, this summoner is really, really, really already underrated. Like, people are complaining. Crowless is another one. It's going to be so hard to kill Crowless with Void Armor. You know, you already can't poison it. You can't afflict it. It just heals through everything. Luckily, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's just going to be so difficult to kill with Void Armor. Cornelius is another one. Thorns, Return Fire, Magic Reflect, almost must have. You know, even at silver, this is a good one with the heal. Basically, at silver, Cornelius gets a huge boost from this new card. Think about how good of a backline protector it already is, and then add in all this stuff. Crazy. Then finally, Chain Golem. Chain Golem, similar situation to like Shield Bearer, I guess. You know, obviously a little different, but with Shield, Void Armor, Void, and then you add in Void Armor. So like, here's a good one for bronze. I mean, I know it's super expensive. Even one copy is $150. So I trust me, it's one of the more expensive cards in the game. I fully understand that, but you know, huge synergies here. So we just went through all the cards. My only other thing is, I think I'm going to actually save this for a part 2, and I'll give you a little teaser now. I think this card is a Jotun Destroyer. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go more in depth as soon as I finish this video, and you'll see it the day after you watch this. But I'm going to talk about why I think this card absolutely wrecks Jotun, and I will show you specific lineups that I would run to get that done. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Again, if you enjoyed the content, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe. I'm back. I'm covering more and more of this stuff, so I really love your support. And then come check out my Twitter. I'm getting more and more active on that. Have some great conversations and comments. Feel free to DM me anytime. I'm pretty active on there. So yeah, it's great having you here, and I hope you guys are having a great day.